What if the first words of the New Testament were not meant to comfort you, but to confront you? What if the Gospel of Matthew was written not for people who felt ready for God, but for those who felt disqualified, overlooked, or already judged by their past? Before this book became scripture, before it was quoted in sermons and studied in churches, it was a risky testimony written by a man who knew exactly what it meant to be hated. And that is where this story truly begins. Picture a crowded marketplace, loud voices, dust in the air, coins clinking on wooden tables. This is not a holy place. This is where money changes hands and resentment grows. Sitting at a booth is a man named Matthew, also called Levi. To his own people, he is not just disliked, he is considered a traitor, a tax collector working for Rome, someone who profits from the suffering of his neighbors. If anyone believed they were beyond God's calling, it would have been him, and yet this is the man chosen to open the story of Jesus. Here is the first tension you need to sit with. Jesus does not begin his public story by calling the most respected religious leader or the most disciplined student of the law. He walks straight up to a man everyone else avoids. No long speech, no explanation, no conditions. Just two words that change everything. Follow me. Matthew 9:9. That moment should disturb us, because it forces a question we do not like to ask. If Jesus called him, who might he be calling today that we think should be last in line? Matthew does not negotiate. He does not ask for time. He stands up and leaves everything behind. The money, the security, the identity he built, even if it was broken. This is not a motivational moment. It is a rupture, a clean break. And that is important, because Matthew wants you to understand something early on. Following Jesus is not about improving your old life. It is about stepping into a completely new one. Years later, when Matthew writes his gospel, he writes like a man who remembers where he came from. Every detail matters, every connection matters. This is not random storytelling. Matthew is building a bridge from promise to fulfillment, from ancient prophecy to living reality, over and over. Again, he shows that Jesus did not appear suddenly in history. He arrived on purpose, at the right time, in the right way. More than 60 times, Matthew connects Jesus to the Old Testament, not to impress scholars, but to answer a burning question his people had carried for centuries. Has God kept his word? Matthew's answer is clear and unrelenting, yes, and Jesus is the proof. That is why Matthew begins with a genealogy. And here is where many people lose interest too quickly. But Matthew knew exactly what he was doing. A list of names does not feel exciting, but to a Jewish reader, it was powerful. It traced Jesus back to Abraham and David, promise and kingship, covenant and authority. Matthew is saying from the very first lines, this is not a new religion. This is the continuation of God's plan. But Matthew goes even further. He includes people who should not be there, outsiders, scandal, broken stories, Tamar, Rahab, Ruth, Bathsheba, women marked by pain, sin, loss, and controversy. This is not an accident. This is theology. Matthew is quietly telling you that God's story has always moved through imperfect people. If you think your past removes you from God's purpose, Matthew places that lie under a spotlight and exposes it. Then Jesus begins to speak. When Matthew records the Sermon on the Mount, he does not present it as a list of religious rules. He presents it as a new way to see the world. Jesus does not bless the powerful, the confident, or the successful. He blesses the poor in spirit, the mourning, the meek, the people who know they need God. This is not weakness. This is honesty. Jesus does something unsettling here. He moves the focus from outward behavior to inward reality. You have heard it said, he repeats, but I tell you, murder begins with anger. Adultery begins in the heart. Righteousness is not performance, it is transformation. And suddenly the question is no longer, am I following the rules, but who am I becoming? Matthew wants you to feel the weight of this, because this teaching leaves no room to hide. It reaches into motives, thoughts, intentions. It challenges the version of faith that looks clean on the outside, but remains untouched on the inside. And that tension is intentional. Matthew is not trying to make you comfortable. He is trying to make you honest, and yet woven through all of this is grace. The same Jesus who raises the standard also offers mercy. The same teacher who exposes the heart also invites the broken. Matthew, the former outcast, knows exactly why that matters. He records Jesus saying, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick." Matthew 9:12. That is not an insult, it is an invitation. So here is the question that quietly follows you through every page of this gospel. Who is Jesus to you? A moral teacher, a historical figure, or the fulfillment of something deeper you have been waiting for, even if you could not name it? Matthew does not rush to answer that for you. He builds it slowly, carefully, with intention, because real faith is not forced, it is awakened. As this story continues, miracles will happen, conflicts will rise, crowds will grow, enemies will form, but everything starts here, with a man nobody respected, with a call that interrupted an ordinary day, with a kingdom that turns expectations upside down. Before we move forward, pause for a moment. If this opening has already challenged you, write the word "follow" in the comments so I know you are still here. And leave a like if you want to continue this journey through the Gospel of Matthew together. Imagine hearing about miracles your entire life and still wondering if any of them could reach you. Not stories passed down, not rumors carried by crowds, but moments so close, so disruptive that they force a decision. This is where Matthew takes us next. Not into calm explanations, but into motion. Dusty roads, crowded homes, sudden interruptions. Because once Jesus begins to act, everything moves faster and no one stays neutral for long. The first thing Matthew wants you to notice is not the miracle itself, but who stands in front of Jesus. A man with leprosy approaches him. That detail matters. Leprosy was not only a disease, it was a sentence. Isolation, rejection, silence. This man should not be there. He should not be close. He should not speak. Yet he kneels and says something simple and dangerous. "Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean." Matthew 8:2. Notice the tension. He does not question Jesus' power. He questions his willingness. And that question still hangs in the air today. Jesus does not step back. He does not speak from a distance. He touches him. That single action breaks social law, religious fear, and human instinct all at once. "I am willing," Jesus says, "be clean." And immediately Matthew tells us the man is healed. This is not just about skin restored. This is about dignity returned. Jesus is revealing something essential about the kingdom of God. It does not avoid broken people, it moves toward them. From there, Matthew does not slow down. A Roman centurion steps forward next, an enemy, an outsider, a man of authority asking help from a Jewish teacher. He does not ask Jesus to come. He says, "Just say the word." Jesus pauses. Matthew wants you to pause too. This is the kind of faith no one expected, and Jesus says something shocking. "I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith." Matthew 8:10. The miracle happens at a distance, but the message lands close. Faith is not about background, it is about trust. Then comes the storm. The disciples are in a boat, waves crashing, fear rising. Jesus is asleep. That detail is unsettling. If he cares, why is he resting? If he is powerful, why does he seem absent? The disciples shout, "Lord, save us!" And with a few words, Jesus calms the wind and the sea. Silence replaces chaos. And the question no one says out loud becomes impossible to ignore. What kind of man is this? Matthew 8:27. Matthew wants you to sit with that question because miracles are not meant to entertain, they are meant to reveal. Soon after, Jesus meets men possessed by demons, living among tombs, places of death, places people avoid. The demons recognize him immediately. They know who he is before many humans do. With a word, Jesus drives them out. No struggle, no ritual. Authority speaks, and darkness obeys. Matthew is showing you that Jesus does not only deal with visible problems, he confronts the unseen ones too. Then the story turns inward. A paralyzed man is lowered before Jesus. Everyone expects healing, but Jesus says something unexpected first. Your sins are forgiven. Matthew 9:2. The room shifts. Religious leaders accuse him of blasphemy. Jesus responds by healing the man's body, not to impress the crowd, but to prove a deeper truth. The greater miracle is not movement restored, but forgiveness given. Matthew is clear here. Jesus did not come only to fix what is broken on the outside. He came to address what is broken at the core. This pattern repeats, healing after healing. Each one answers a deeper question. Does God see me? Does he care? Am I too far gone? The woman who touches the edge of his cloak does not shout. She does not ask publicly. She reaches quietly. Jesus stops everything. He calls her daughter. Faith is seen, shame is removed. Matthew wants you to understand that Jesus notices the quiet faith just as much as the loud desperation. Then comes death. A synagogue leader's daughter dies. Grief fills the house. Mourning is already underway. Jesus says, she is not dead, but asleep. People laugh. Matthew records that detail on purpose. Faith often sounds foolish to those who have already decided what is possible. Jesus takes the girl by the hand and tells her to rise, and she does. Life returns where hope had ended. Matthew does not dramatize this. He lets the moment speak. Jesus has authority even here. By now, the pattern is impossible to miss. Jesus heals bodies. He forgives sins. He commands nature. He confronts evil. He restores life. And every miracle forces a response. Some marvel, some follow, some resist. The religious leaders accuse him of using dark power. Jesus answers calmly, if I drive out demons by the Spirit of God, then the kingdom of God has come upon you. Matthew 12:28. This is not just power on display. This is a declaration. The kingdom is not coming someday. It is already breaking in. And that is where the tension sharpens, because if the kingdom is here, then neutrality is no longer an option. You cannot watch forever. You either move closer or step back. Matthew places you in the crowd on purpose. You see the healed leper, the forgiven paralytic, the calmed sea, the raised child, and the question becomes personal. What do you do with a king who has this kind of authority? Matthew does not answer that yet. He keeps you watching, listening, wrestling, because faith grows best in tension, not in comfort. Before we continue, write the word authority in the comments if you are still following closely, and leave a like if you want to see how Jesus explains this kingdom through his parables next. What if the most important truths Jesus ever spoke were hidden in plain sight, not locked away in complex language, not reserved for scholars, but spoken out loud to crowds who did not even realize what they were hearing? This is the moment where Matthew slows the story down and changes the rhythm. The miracles captured attention. The authority created tension. Now Jesus does something unexpected. He begins to teach in stories, simple stories, familiar scenes, and yet everything depends on whether you are truly listening. Crowds gather again, farmers, laborers, families, people who understand seeds, soil, fishing nets, and harvest seasons. Jesus sits and speaks, but this time he does not Explain everything. He tells a story about a farmer scattering seed. Some falls on the path, some on rocky ground, some among thorns, some on good soil. Then he stops. No explanation, no summary. Just this line: "Whoever has ears, let them hear." Matthew 13:9. That sentence should unsettle you, because it suggests that hearing is not the same as understanding. The disciples notice the shift immediately. They ask the question everyone else is afraid to ask. Why are you speaking like this? Why not just say it clearly? Jesus' answer is direct and uncomfortable, because the knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven has been given to you, but not to them. Matthew 13:11. This is not exclusion. It is exposure. Parables do not hide truth from sincere hearts. They reveal what kind of heart is listening. Then Jesus explains the seed. The message is the same for everyone, but the results are not. Some hear and dismiss it quickly. Some receive it with excitement but fall away under pressure. Some are choked by worry and desire, and some let it take root and change them completely. Matthew wants you to notice something important here. The problem is never the seed. The question is always the soil. Before you can get comfortable, Jesus tells another story. A field with good wheat. An enemy comes at night and plants weeds among it. When everything grows, the workers panic and want to pull the weeds out immediately. The owner stops them. Wait until the harvest. Matthew 13:30. This creates tension on purpose. Why allow the weeds to grow? Why delay justice? Jesus later explains that the world will contain both until the end. Judgment belongs to God, not to human impatience. This matters because it challenges how people expect God to act. Many want instant separation, immediate removal of evil, clear lines. Jesus says growth and judgment do not happen on human schedules. The kingdom advances quietly, patiently, even when it feels slow or unfair. Matthew is pushing the listener to trust God's timing instead of demanding control. Then Jesus shifts again, a mustard seed, one of the smallest seeds known. When planted, it becomes a tree large enough for birds to rest in its branches, then yeast mixed into dough until the entire batch rises. These stories are short, almost easy to miss. That is the point. The kingdom does not always arrive loudly. It often begins unnoticed. Small acts, quiet faith, hidden obedience. Matthew wants you to understand that impact is not measured by visibility. This raises a quiet question. If the kingdom grows this way, could something God is doing in your life feel insignificant right now? Could you be overlooking it because it does not match your expectations? Jesus does not answer that directly. He keeps teaching. Next, he tells two stories back to back. A man finds a treasure hidden in a field. A merchant finds a pearl of great value. In both cases, the response is the same. They sell everything to obtain it. Matthew is careful here. The kingdom is not one option among many. Once its value is seen, comparison ends. The decision becomes clear, but the cost is real. This is where many listeners become uncomfortable. Jesus does not soften this. He does not negotiate the price. He presents the kingdom as worth everything, not because God demands loss, but because nothing else compares. Matthew is forcing the listener to confront priorities without saying the word sacrifice. Then comes the net. Fishermen pull it in, full of all kinds of fish. Only at the shore does separation happen. The good are kept, the bad are discarded. Jesus explains this plainly. The end will come. Judgment will happen. This is not meant to create fear, but urgency. The kingdom is open now. The invitation is real now. The response matters now. By this point, the disciples are overwhelmed. They ask Jesus if they understand these things. He does not explain further. He simply asks, "Have you understood all these things?" Matthew 13:51. That question still stands. Understanding is not passive. It requires reflection, honesty, and response. Matthew arranges these parables carefully. Together, they form a pattern. The kingdom is offered widely. It grows quietly. It contains tension. It demands value-based decisions, and it will one day be complete. These are not abstract ideas. They shape how a person lives while waiting. And here is the pattern interruption Matthew wants you to feel. The same stories that open one heart will harden another. Some walk away confused. Others lean in. The difference is not intelligence, it is willingness. Jesus does not chase the crowd to explain more. He lets the stories sit, because parables do their work over time. They return to the mind. They press on the conscience. They expose what a person truly wants. Matthew wants you to see yourself in this moment. Are you hearing these stories as interesting ideas, or as truth that demands a response? Are you open soil, or distracted ground? Are you waiting for instant results, or trusting quiet growth? Are you holding on to lesser treasures while standing over something eternal? The tension remains unresolved on purpose, because the kingdom is not just something to understand, it is something to enter. If these parables made you think differently, write the word kingdom in the comments and leave a like if you are ready to continue as Jesus confronts the religious leaders and reveals the cost of following him. Tension changes a room before words ever do. You can feel it when authority is questioned, when power feels threatened, when truth refuses to stay quiet. This is where Matthew takes us next. The miracles have drawn crowds. The parables have divided listeners. Now Jesus steps into spaces where silence is expected, and he does not soften his voice. Because when truth confronts control, conflict is unavoidable. Religious leaders approach him, not to learn, but to test. They ask where his authority comes from, believing they can trap him with words. Jesus does not defend himself the way they expect. He answers with a question that exposes their fear. They refuse to respond honestly, and in that refusal, their hearts are revealed. Matthew wants you to see this clearly. The issue is not lack of evidence. It is lack of surrender. From that moment, the atmosphere shifts. Jesus begins to speak directly to those who claim spiritual leadership. His words are sharp, not cruel, but precise. He exposes behavior that looks righteous on the outside while remaining empty within. He speaks about people who honor God with their lips but keep their hearts distant. This is uncomfortable because it forces a question that still matters now. Is faith something we display or something that changes us? Jesus describes leaders who focus on rules while neglecting justice, mercy, and faithfulness. Matthew records these words carefully because they are not meant only for that generation. They challenge any version of belief that values appearance over integrity. Jesus is not attacking the law. He is defending its purpose. Love God fully. Love others honestly. Everything else flows from that. Then someone asks what matters most. Of all the commands, which one is greatest? Jesus answers without hesitation. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Matthew makes sure you understand this moment. Faith is not about complexity. It is about direction. Where your love is placed shapes everything else. Soon after, the story moves away from crowds and into a quiet, private moment. Jesus takes his disciples to a region filled with foreign temples and symbols of Roman power. Against that backdrop, he asks a question that cuts through noise and opinion. Who do people say the Son of Man is? They answer with popular guesses, prophets, teachers, familiar names. Then Jesus narrows it. But what about you? Who do you say I am? Silence follows. Then Peter speaks. You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Matthew 16:16. This is not a guess, it is a confession. Jesus affirms him, saying this truth was revealed by God, not human reasoning. In this moment, everything changes. The identity of Jesus is spoken clearly, and the foundation of faith is laid. But the tension does not disappear, it deepens. Jesus immediately begins to explain what being the Messiah truly means. Suffering, rejection, death, resurrection. The disciples are not ready for this. Peter, who just spoke with confidence, now resists. "This shall never happen to you." Jesus responds firmly. This is not cruelty, it is clarity. Following God's plan often conflicts with human expectations. Matthew wants you to see how quickly faith can turn into resistance when comfort feels threatened. Not long after, Jesus takes Peter, James, and John up a mountain. What happens there is not explained away or softened. Jesus is transformed before them. His appearance changes. Moses and Elijah appear. The law and the prophets stand beside him. A voice from heaven speaks, "This is my Son, whom I love. Listen to him." Fear overwhelms the disciples. Matthew does not dramatize this moment. He lets its weight speak for itself. This scene matters because it connects everything. The authority Jesus claims, the suffering he predicts, the kingdom he teaches, all of it flows from who he truly is. The transfiguration is not meant to impress, it is meant to prepare. Glory is revealed before the road turns dark. As they come down the mountain, Jesus tells them not to speak of what they saw. Timing matters. Understanding must mature. Faith grows in stages, not instant clarity. Matthew is careful to show that even those closest to Jesus struggle to hold both truth and obedience at the same time. The path forward becomes heavier. Jesus speaks more openly about the cost of following him, denying self, taking up the cross, losing life to find it. These are not poetic phrases, they describe real choices. Matthew wants you to understand that discipleship is not admiration from a distance. It is alignment, even when it costs reputation, comfort, or certainty. Through these moments, a contrast becomes clear. Religious leaders protect power. Disciples are invited to surrender it. One clings to control, the other learns trust. One demands signs, the other follows a voice. Matthew places these paths side by side so the reader cannot avoid the comparison. And here is the unresolved tension that remains. You can admire Jesus and still resist him. You can speak truth and still misunderstand the path. You can witness glory and still fear obedience. The story does not shame these struggles, it exposes them so faith can grow honestly. As this section closes, the question Jesus asked in that foreign land still echoes. Not what others say, not what tradition claims, but what you believe. Who do you say he is? Because that answer will shape every decision that follows. If this part made you reflect, write the phrase, "You are the Messiah," in the comments, and leave a like if you are ready to continue as the story moves towards sacrifice, judgment, and the road to the cross. The sound reaches the city before the man does. Footsteps multiply, voices rise, something is happening, and everyone feels it. Matthew wants you to sense this moment before you understand it, because when Jesus finally enters Jerusalem, nothing feels small anymore. This is not a quiet arrival. It is charged with expectation, confusion, and hope that is about to be tested. Jesus does not come riding a war horse. He chooses a donkey. That choice matters. It is deliberate. Ancient prophecy is being activated in plain sight. See, your king comes to you, gentle and riding on a donkey. Matthew 21:5. The crowd spreads cloaks on the road, palm branches are lifted, shouts fill the air. Hosanna to the Son of David. Save us now. That is what they are saying. But here is the tension Matthew wants you to feel. They want saving, but they do not agree on what salvation means. Some expect a political victory, others expect freedom from Rome. Few are prepared for what Jesus actually came to confront. The city asks a question that still echoes today. Who is this? Matthew 21:10. Not everyone asking is ready for the answer. As the celebration fades, Jesus walks into the temple, the heart of worship, the place meant for prayer. What he finds there is not reverence, but business. Tables of money changers, systems built on exploitation, religion turned into profit, and Jesus reacts. Calm does not mean passive. He overturns tables, he drives out sellers. His words cut through the noise. My house will be called a house of prayer, but you are making it a den of robbers. Matthew 21:13. This moment is not anger without purpose. It is judgment with clarity. Jesus is not rejecting worship. He is defending it. He is confronting a version of faith that looks impressive but harms the vulnerable. Matthew places this scene immediately after the triumphal entry for a reason. The same crowd that praises him must now face what his kingship actually demands. And something unexpected happens next. The blind and the lame come to him in the temple, and he heals them. In the same space where corruption is confronted, compassion is released. Children cry out praises, and religious leaders grow angry. The contrast is sharp. Those who think they see clearly are blind to what God is doing. Those considered small recognize him instantly. From here, Jesus begins to speak about the future. Later, sitting on the Mount of Olives, overlooking the temple, he tells his disciples that not one stone will be left on another. The building they admire will fall. This shakes them. They ask when it will happen. They ask for signs. They want a timeline. Jesus gives them something deeper than dates. He gives them warnings. He speaks of deception, false messiahs, wars, earthquakes, persecution, fear. But he says clearly, these are not the end. They are the beginning. Matthew wants you to understand this point without confusion. Chaos does not mean God has lost control. It means a larger story is unfolding. Jesus warns them not to be alarmed, not to follow every voice claiming truth, not to mistake intensity for authority. Endurance matters, faithfulness matters. He tells them that the message of the kingdom will be preached to all nations, and then the end will come. This is not fear-based teaching. It is preparation. Then Jesus speaks in images again, but this time the urgency is sharper. He talks about sudden moments, unexpected arrivals, days when ordinary life continues until it suddenly cannot. He makes one thing clear: no one knows the hour. Readiness is not about prediction, it is about posture. He tells a story about 10 virgins waiting for a bridegroom. Some are prepared, some are not. The door closes. The message is uncomfortable. Waiting without preparation is not faith. It is assumption. Matthew records this carefully because the warning is not aimed at outsiders. It is aimed at those who expect to be ready without change. Then comes the story of the talents. A master leaves and entrusts resources to his servants. Some invest what they are given, one hides it. When the master returns, excuses are not enough. What mattered was faithfulness with what was entrusted. Matthew wants you to feel the weight of this. Time, truth, opportunity, responsibility, none of them are neutral. Finally, Jesus describes a scene that leaves no space for pretending. The Son of Man comes in glory. Nations are gathered. Separation happens. Sheep and goats. The criteria surprises everyone. Not knowledge, not position, not religious language, but action. Feeding the hungry, welcoming the stranger, visiting the sick and imprisoned, loving the unseen. Whatever you did for one of the least of these, you did. And for me, Matthew 25:40. This is not a metaphor meant to inspire. It is a standard meant to reveal. Faith that does not move outward is incomplete. Love for God is proven by love for people. Matthew places this teaching here because it exposes the core of the kingdom Jesus has been describing all along. As this section ends, the tension is heavy. Jesus has entered as king. He has judged false worship. He has warned of coming trials. He has called for readiness, faithfulness, and compassion. The celebration of palms feels far away now. The road ahead leads towards suffering, not applause. And that is the question left hanging. What kind of king is this? One who refuses empty praise. One who demands prepared hearts. One who measures faith by love lived out. If this part challenged you, write the word "ready" in the comments and leave a like if you are prepared to follow the story as it moves into the darkest hours and the greatest victories still to come. Silence settles before the world understands what it means. Not the calm kind, but the heavy kind that presses on the chest, the kind that follows betrayal. Matthew brings us into the final hours slowly, because what happens next is not fast, and it is not clean. It is deliberate, it is costly, and nothing in this story is accidental. Night falls, and Jesus withdraws with his disciples to a garden called Gethsemane. This is not a public moment. There is no crowd, no teaching, no miracle, only prayer. Matthew wants you to see Jesus here, not as a distant figure, but as fully present, fully aware of what is coming. He tells his closest friends that his soul is overwhelmed with sorrow. Then he goes a little farther and falls to the ground. He prays words that strip away any shallow understanding of faith. "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will." Matthew 26:39. This is where the tension peaks. Jesus knows the outcome, he knows the pain, and still he chooses obedience. This is not resignation, it is surrender. Matthew records this moment because it reveals something essential. The cross is not forced on Jesus, it is accepted. While he prays, the disciples sleep. That contrast matters. Human weakness beside divine resolve. Then footsteps approach. Judas arrives with soldiers. A kiss marks the betrayal. Violence threatens to break out, but Jesus stops it. He could resist, he could escape, he does neither. He allows himself to be taken. From here, everything moves quickly, but without justice. False witnesses, accusations that do not align. Silence. Where defense is expected. When asked directly if he is the Messiah, Jesus answers plainly. The reaction is immediate. Condemnation, mockery, abuse. Meanwhile, Peter denies knowing him. Not once, not twice, 3 times. And when the rooster crows, the weight of failure settles in. Matthew does not soften this moment. Following Jesus does not remove the possibility of fear, but fear does not cancel grace. Morning comes. Jesus stands before Pilate. The Roman governor sees no guilt, yet gives in to pressure. The crowd chooses Barabbas. An innocent man is exchanged for a guilty one. Matthew places this detail carefully. Substitution is not a theory here. It is visible. It is lived out. Jesus is beaten, mocked, crowned with thorns. A sign is placed above him. This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. It is meant as sarcasm. Matthew knows it is truth. On the cross, Jesus speaks words that echo the Psalms. Darkness covers the land. The earth shakes. When he finally gives up his spirit, the temple curtain is torn from top to bottom. That detail is critical. Separation ends. Access is opened. God does not wait for humanity to climb upward. He comes down. A Roman centurion watches all of this and speaks the sentence no one else dares to say. Surely he was the Son of God. Matthew does not comment. He lets the confession stand on its own. Jesus is buried. A stone is rolled into place. Guards are posted. Power believes the story is finished, but Matthew slows the pace again because the silence of the tomb is not defeat. It is anticipation. At dawn, women go to the tomb, not expecting resurrection, expecting to mourn. The ground shakes. An angel appears. The stone is rolled away, not to let Jesus out, but to let witnesses in. He is not here, the angel says. He has risen just as he said. Matthew 28:6. Everything turns in that moment. Fear and joy collide. As the women run to tell the disciples, Jesus meets them on the road. Alive, present, real. They worship him. The same Jesus who was arrested, beaten, and crucified now stands before them. Matthew wants you to understand that the resurrection is not symbolic. It is the center of the story. Attempts are made to silence it. Lies are spread. Money changes hands. But truth does not depend on permission. Jesus later meets his disciples on a mountain in Galilee. Some worship. Some still doubt. That detail matters. Jesus does not wait for perfect faith to speak. He declares that all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to him. Then he gives a command that reaches beyond that moment and into every generation. Go and make disciples of all nations. Teach them, baptize them, walk with them. This is not a call for spectators. It is a mission for participants. And then comes the promise that carries everything else. Surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age. Matthew 28:20. Not occasionally, not conditionally, always. Matthew ends his gospel here on purpose. There is no extended conclusion, no farewell scene, because the story is not over. It moves outward, through people, through time, through lives changed by a king who conquered death without becoming what the world expected. The Gospel of Matthew begins with a genealogy and ends with a mission. It starts with a call and closes with a command. In between is a life that redefines power, sacrifice, and victory. And now the final question is not about Jesus. It is about you. What will you do with this story? Will it remain information, or will it become direction? If this message spoke to you, comment the word "risen" below so others know they are not alone in believing. And subscribe to the channel if you want to continue receiving deep, clear, and honest biblical content like this.